Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Great to have everybody here. I appreciate you stopping by. Hello, Maverick family. Much to discuss tonight, much to share with you. Volodymyr Zelensky is in Canada. He came with his cup in hand, asking for it to be refilled. And the Canadian government has obliged. We are sending over $600 million. I think it's $635 million more to Ukraine over 3 years. We'll have the details for you. And we'll give you the highlights from today. Zelensky addressed Parliament. Overnight, there was another Ukrainian rocket attack in Crimea. We have a report from our correspondent over there, Kevin Michelizzi. We'll be sharing that with you. Very concerning. And what else do we have tonight? I mean, those are the main stories. And the Zelensky stuff is going to take a little bit of time. We have a few other things to share with you tonight as well. Breaking news here, breaking news there. We'll make sure that we get the breaking news everywhere. Don't go away. I'll be right back, and we'll start with our top stories of the day right here on the Maverick News Channel.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back. In a passionate plea for continued support, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made his way to Parliament today in Canada. His mission? To rally Western allies behind Ukraine's ongoing struggle against Russia. Zelensky's visit comes hot on the heels of meetings with President Joe Biden and U.S. lawmakers in Washington, where he also addressed the United Nations earlier this week. Zelensky declared, "Moscow must lose once and for all, and it will lose," in his address before Canadian Parliament today. And he emphasized Canada's historical role on the bright side, not the right side, the bright side of history, and its vital assistance in saving lives through humanitarian aid. Zelensky extended heartfelt gratitude to the Canadian people for their unwavering financial support and their warm welcome to Ukrainian refugees. He drew parallels between the current suffering of Ukrainians and what he describes as the 1930s genocide orchestrated by Stalin, which led to the famine in Ukraine, claiming the lives of over 3 million people. I bet you Laurie would have something to say about that. He recalled that Edmonton, Canada, was home to the world's first monument commemorating the Ukrainian famine genocide in 1993. And he expressed his desire for a future monument in Canada that would, he hopes, mark Ukraine's victory over Russia's conflict with Ukraine. And he's thinking maybe they could build that monument in Edmonton. Anyway, this is how the day started out. The sun wasn't even up yet. And here comes Volodymyr Zelensky, cup in hand, and his wife in hand as well, as you can see, as he makes his way down the stairs of this of his plane at the airport. At least he didn't trip like Sleepy Joe. There you go. So that's him arriving. Let's give you some more highlights. So, you know, there is a climate emergency, right? So I think they just went for the large convoy today. Motorcade. I don't think they went for extra large. I think they just went for large. Because they're trying to save the planet. So this is what it looked like as Zelensky arrived in Ottawa to first meet with Canada's Governor General, Mary Simon. But here's the motorcade. Here it comes. You know what, let's speed this up for the sake of time. We'll there we go. Okay, and so they all speed in and they all come in and then they all park and then they put his car at the front. I'm going to give you play-by-play. And then he gets out, and he's making a fashion statement. His favorite color is olive drab. Okay, you ready? Okay. And then all the guys in the suits. There he goes. Okay. Oh, people going in. Oh, there he comes. Okay, there, look. See how well dressed he is? That's his Sunday best. And then they go in. I've noticed that is sort of his, it's like military chic. And then we move inside. And you see how Mary Simon has everything decorated. It feels very, I don't know, Victorian or something. I don't know. Anyway, kind of looks like my grandmother's place. If she had had money. So we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait. Let's see if we can just speed things up here a little bit. Okay. Then they all come in. Right over here. You can sit there and you can sit there and you're going to sit there. And then they all come in. And they're waiting and hurry up, go over there. You go over there and you go over there and you go over there. I've been to these kinds of things before. Everybody has to figure out where they're supposed to stand. It's very formal. We'll just fast forward a little bit. Get that camera out of my lens. And there he is, okay? He's got his super duper suit on. Okay, I'm ready for the war. No, there's, hello Mary, how are you? I'm very good. How are you? I'm very, very good too. How are you? I'm very good too. And I'm very, and yes, you're very full. You're very nice. Thank you. And then they all sit down. And then they have a little chin wag while the media takes their pictures. Hello, yeah, could we get another $9 billion, please? Oh, I don't know. It seems like an awful lot. You have to ask Justin about that. And then they back up. I'm sorry. Am I? Maybe I should take this a little more seriously. Okay, so that's what happened there. He drives in, gets out of the vehicle, goes in, meets with the Governor General. And then, after, it's very predictable stuff, really. Then he went over and he addressed Parliament. I'll skip over all this stuff where he's like walking around and people are cheering and like that. And then let's just get right to the speech, shall we? Okay. So here we go. So starts off with Justin Trudeau, you know, all the niceties, and gets that out of the way, and then they start talking war. Here we go.
To have President Zelensky visit us here today. Thank you for coming, Vladimir. We stand here absolutely united in our defense of democracy and our condemnation of Vladimir Putin's unprovoked, unjustified, and unconscionable invasion of Ukraine.
I've discussed in person today with President Zelensky during our tete-a-tete. We've also had a cabinet meeting. We discussed military needs, financial needs, and humanitarian needs for Ukraine today and for the future.
At each meeting, Canada was clear, as we always are, that we will stand with Ukraine with whatever it takes for as long as it takes. And today, we're backing up this commitment with further support. We are shifting our approach to provide multi-year assistance, ensuring Ukraine has the predictable support it needs for long-term success. As part of this approach, I'm announcing $650 million in new military assistance over the next 3 years to supply Ukraine with 50 armored vehicles, including armored medical evacuation vehicles that will be built by Canadian workers in London, Ontario. We will also contribute pilot and maintenance instructors to the Joint Coalition F-16, as well as support for Leopard 2 tank maintenance. We
will also provide Ukraine with 35 drones equipped with high-resolution cameras and support services, as well as light vehicles and ammunition based on NATO standards. Earlier this week, Minister Blair confirmed that Canada will provide a financial contribution to the consortium led by the United Kingdom to deliver air defense equipment to Ukraine.
Ukraine's resilience to date has been remarkable, but their economy continues to need support so that it can withstand this invasion, so that government has the resources it needs to continue to provide services to its people, so that it has the long-term certainty to plan and coordinate assistance effectively, and so that when Ukraine is victorious, it will continue to be a strong and prosperous country. That is why I am today confirming that we will again provide substantial macroeconomic support to Ukraine in the 2024 fiscal year.
We've just signed a free trade agreement that supports the economic development of Ukraine and provides Canadian companies privileged access that will create jobs. And later today, I will head to Toronto with Volodymyr to meet with leaders from the business world. We will discuss how the private sector can support efforts by Ukraine and already participate in rebuilding the country.
Meanwhile, we're continuing to impose costs on Russia and ensuring that those responsible for this illegal, unjustifiable invasion do not benefit from it. First, Canada and Ukraine have agreed to engage with G7 partners to establish a working group of eminent persons who will provide advice on the seizure and forfeiture of Russian assets, including of the Russian Central Bank. Second, we're adding another 63 Russian individuals and entities to our sanctions list, including those complicit in the kidnapping of children and the spreading of disinformation. L'ensemble de la société.
All of Ukrainian society needs support. To support civil society, we will assist local NGOs and assist the Ukrainian parliament in improving its cyber resilience. To assist communities, we are also supporting the rebuilding of local infrastructure, and we are helping farmers who have been disturbed by Putin's actions.
To preserve the memory of victims of the Holodomor, Canada is prepared to contribute to the Holodomor Museum in Ukraine once appropriate arrangements are in place. And to help all affected Ukrainians, we're providing funding to make mental health support more available, because the toll this is taking on the well-being of citizens, even those not on the front lines, can never be understated. Évidemment,
of course, it will not be possible to rebuild before peace is reestablished. As I said in Parliament today, and as I said at the UN Security Council this week, this peace must not be a false peace based on compromises that reward the aggressor. We must have lasting peace, respecting the UN Charter, respecting international law, to restore territorial integrity to Ukraine.
powerful to hear President Zelensky speak to parliamentarians today. And this evening, he will again speak, this time directly to Canadians, including Ukrainian Canadians, at an event in Toronto. Over 1.4 million Canadians have Ukrainian roots, but this war has made all of us as Canadians connected to Ukraine. This country has seen an incredible outpouring of support that is unique in the way that it comes from all corners of society, from the diaspora, from different orders of government, from different charities, and from across the Canadian public, because your fight is our fight. These new announcements we have made build on nearly $9 billion of support since this full-scale invasion began, build on years of support through initiatives like Operation Unifier that has trained up tens of thousands of Ukrainian
That
fighters.
was B, folks, with a B,
And
billion.
a list of nearly 2,700 individuals or entities that we have sanctioned since Putin illegally occupied Crimea in 2014. Canada's support for Ukraine is unequivocal and always will be. And Volodymyr, I have to say that the steadfastness and the strength of your leadership, of your compassion, and of how you have inspired not just Ukrainians, not just Canadians, but people all around the world to look at what they can do concretely to continue to stand up for what is right, continue to stand up for our values, is an inspiration to us all, including to me, my dear friend. So thank you very much. We will continue to stand with you as long as it takes.
I thank you, Justin, my dear friend, Prime Minister, fellow guests, members of government, Canadians, journalists. Today, I, together with my First Lady of Ukraine, together with my team, have arrived to Canada in order to personally say thank you for all the support provided to the Ukrainians. At times of war and at different other times, the people of Ukraine are receiving only respect from the Canadians, only the desire to help, only the trust So please know that we are greatly appreciating this support, and Ukraine shall always remember that. And when we will gain victory, and we will be victorious, you have to know this is going to be our common victory with the Canada, with all the partners, with all the friends, with the whole free world. That is free because there's nations that are protecting the freedom and life with dedication. It was an honor for me to address the Parliament of Canada. I thank you. This is already my second statement, but today it was offline, like face to face, and we are very grateful that all the parties, all the parliament are supporting us. We had also a very fruitful meeting with the General Governor of Canada, and surely we have a very fruitful negotiations with Justin. I'm very grateful to you, and the Prime Minister, together with his strong team, has been always supporting us and assisting us. We have a very good agreements, our defensive cooperation since the start of the full-scale aggression was very effective. Canada has provided us assistance for over 8 billion Canadian dollars. There's houses, armored vehicles, ammunition, firearms. Canada has trained over 40,000 of Ukrainian soldiers under the framework of the Unifier operation. I'd like to specially outline Canadian leadership in the humanitarian demining. This is very important for Ukrainians because around a third part of the territory of Ukraine are contaminated with the unexploded ordnance. These are the leftovers of the Russian shelling. This is an enormous amount of work that we would need to do in order to clean our territory from the mines. But I'm confident that together with the Canadian support, we shall be implementing and fulfilling those tasks. We highly appreciate the decision of the Canada to join the training program for F-16 pilots. I thank you, Justin. We have discussed in a detailed manner on the air defense. I've expressed gratitude for the procurement of additional missiles for air defense systems. This is a very timely decision, as a lot of missiles and Iranian drones are being used against our civilian infrastructure, against our people. Today we have received a new package of defense support. This was already mentioned by Justin, the armored vehicles as well as armored medical evacuation vehicles. This is something that we highly need for our wounded heroes. We have discussed our cooperation in the field of military industry and the joint production of the weaponry. We're expecting for the participation of the Ukrainian companies in the first forum of defense industries that will be held in Ukraine very soon. Then we've reinforced our economic cooperation. We have signed the renewed or updated free trade agreement. This will serve as the foundation for the renovation. Canada is one of our largest donors and very grateful for the decision to continue with the support to Ukraine. What's important is that the Canada is ready and continues with further sanctions pressure against the aggressor, so that the aggressor would not be able to fund the aggression. Then we have discussed different aspects of the peace formula. That includes justice and the accountability for the damages caused by Russia to Ukraine as the result of this aggression. I'm grateful to Canada for supporting our work on the organization of the Global Peace Formula Summit, and I'm very grateful for the leadership to work on the security guarantees for Ukraine until the joining with NATO. Our teams are working on bilateral documents of security guarantees. One other very important thing, the Ukrainian community in Canada. I'm very grateful to all of its members. I'm very grateful that the Ukrainians in Canada, Ukrainian culture in Canada are always at the same level together with other cultures and other languages of other minorities. The equality and respect to the other communities is an important characteristic of your country. This will always stay like that. I'm very grateful. Let us have the victory as soon as possible. Let us have our common victory. Slava Ukraini! Glory to Ukraine.
Minister, President Zelensky, we will be taking 2 questions from the Canadian media, 2 questions from the Ukrainian media. Nous allons prendre 2 questions.
We will take 2 questions from Canadian media, 2 questions from the Ukrainian media. We will begin with
Anupchenko.
Mr. Prime Minister, Pane President, I got a question for both of you. You will be likely agree that the most significant way Canada can help Ukraine is to guarantee security as long as the war continues and to help in achieving a just peace. So, Mr. Trudeau, do you already know which security guarantees Canada will be able to provide to Ukraine? And for the peace plan, which steps of President Zelensky peace formula does Canada support? Пане Президенте, зважаючи і на рівень відносин.
Mr. President, considering the level of cooperation and your personal cooperation with the Prime Minister, what are your expectations of the support of Canada to your peace formula as well as the security guarantees for Ukraine?
Thank you very much. First of all, on the security guarantees, Canada is stepping up today to announce the kind of multi-year support that is a concrete embodiment of what we've been saying since the very beginning, which is that Canada will stand with Ukraine with whatever it takes for as long as it takes. This is not just because Canada and Ukraine are historical friends, that we have deep people-to-people ties, or even that Vladimir and I are great friends in person. It's because this is the right thing to do. Ukraine is standing up and fighting and dying for the rules-based order that protects all of us. It is in Canadians' interests to ensure that Ukraine wins this war, that Russia does not win this war. The impacts that we're feeling, whether it's on food and grocery prices or fuel prices, have been deeply negatively impacted for families from coast to coast to coast, and indeed around the world by this war. And that's why we will continue to stand with Ukraine with whatever it takes for as long as it takes. When it comes to the peace process, we fully support the peace process. And the biggest challenge we have is understanding that we can't pick all of them to lead on. We have to pick just a few, and we're in conversations with that. One of the ones that we are very much looking at is how we can support around displaced persons and the abduction of children. That's something that Canada has, obviously, when it comes to migration and welcoming 175,000 Ukrainians and counting, an example of a place where we can show leadership on this issue around the world.
I thank you for your question. Good afternoon. First, as for the security guarantees, this is a very strong bilateral document that was mentioned at the Vilnius summit, at the G7 countries summit, and there will be a separate bilateral document with every country on security guarantees. We clearly understand what those guarantees are, because we are at war, we are at tests. So this is a security guarantees, both military and humanitarian guarantees, the reinforcement of the Ukrainian armed forces in order not to have any other attempt of any aggression by any other aggressor. Now we're talking about Russia. We are talking about the strong protection in the air and at sea. We know the areas that are usually used by the aggressor. That is the energy sector, which is also very important, and it's combined with the reinforcement of air defense. Surely you are perfectly aware of this. The protection of the energy, the protection of the infrastructure, of critical infrastructure. There's many other aspects. Then there are a number of preventive sanctions, a list of sanctions that shall be imposed against certain aggressor in case of the aggression. The teams are working, and the reason I've said about the different agreements, because you know that there are countries who can provide weapons, then there are countries who are ready to talk about the humanitarian assistance simply because they don't have a powerful armed forces or the ability to produce weaponry. That is why there will be separate agreements with separate country. That is why the G7 countries, they are top priority, because these are the powerful countries that are able to provide the strong security guarantees. As for the peace formula, the most important task is to make sure that all the peaceful negotiations would remain focused. So we are the victim and Russia is the aggressor. We are under attack. The war is in Ukraine. That is why it is absolutely fair that the format of the peace formula was offered by Ukraine, a country which is defending its independence and fighting for its life. We have suggested a number of aspects, and we are currently working on the organization of the inauguration summit. And the big task for us is to make sure there will be as many countries from different continents as possible engaged into the formula, because that would mean that Russia and its aggression is left, well, on itself, and there is a political isolation of the Russian Federation. This is very important. Then, on the basis of the first inauguration summit, our security advisors and diplomatic representatives will start working at different platforms on each point of the peace formula separately. There are countries who will be joining all the points. There are countries who are ready to support only certain points, and that is absolutely normal. For us, it is important to have as many countries as possible engaged. Then, all of these points will be submitted to the leaders of the nations.
Kevin Gallagher.
President Zelensky, did President Biden promise to send Ukraine long-range Army tactical missile systems? And for both leaders, how concerned are you about divisions in U.S. Congress, NATO allies like Poland pulling military support for Ukraine and getting Ukraine the support it needs? Prime Minister, in French and English, please, and what can Canada do in that respect with allies?
Подібне того, excuse me, can you repeat the second part of your question? The first was about the weapon.
Correct.
And the United States. And the second part, can you repeat this?
Sure, no problem. How concerned are you with divisions in U.S. Congress, with some recent divisions amongst NATO allies like Poland, in terms of getting Ukraine the military aid it needs as quickly as it needs? And I'm wondering if you think Canada can play a role to encourage allies.
Дякую.
Thank you. We are grateful to the United States, and with all due respect to all of our allies, United States provide the largest share of assistance, and the assistance that our soldiers on the battlefield, on the front line, really need at this moment. So we are discussing all the different types of weapons, long-range weapons, and artillery shells with a caliber of 155 millimeters, then air defense systems. Therefore, we have a comprehensive discussion and the work with the United States at different levels. We have cooperation at the level of security advisors, at the level of ministers of defense, and at our level, that's a separate bilateral kind of relations at the level of presidents. I believe that the majority of what has been discussed yesterday with President Biden, I think, will be able to reach the agreements. Yes, it is a matter of time. Not everything depends on Ukraine. There's different processes, I have to say, frankly. The sooner, the less people will lose. This is the fact. As for the assistance to Ukraine, we are working with all the states. I understand that Russia, on its side, is spreading disinformation, it's spreading its narratives all around the place. It works with the societies. It's trying to influence the politicians, the public institutions, with different political parties, different NGOs, with many from different countries of the world. They are working very hard. They are investing billions into that. This is a fact. This is in order to divide Europe, divide the United States, and divide the whole world. They have a significant influence. They keep influencing the African continent. They constantly working with Latin American countries. well, they're spending a lot of efforts, a lot of attention, a lot of money for that. It's hard to tackle that. That is why the long war, that is why they're working long on that. Our task as Ukraine, and this is something that I would like to address to our Canadian friends and to you journalists, you are the weapons capable of uniting the society. And just as today we've talked with Justin about this, I really want the Prime Minister to help us with that. I'm confident that he can do that because Canada has powerful relationship with many countries of the world. We cannot let Russia divide the opinions in the world. They're doing that now. If the opinions will be divided, if the unity will be broken, this powerful unity that we've managed to acquire in the beginning of the war, then there could be no support for Ukraine. That's a fact.
As you all know, Canada has been very, very active in supporting Ukraine directly with humanitarian support, military support, financial and economic support. But we've also been very, very active on the world stage. Canada is one of the most interconnected countries in the world. Members of the G7, of the G20, the Commonwealth, the Organization of American States, of La Francophonie, of APEC, of so many different gatherings in which we have been unequivocal in standing not just up for Ukraine and encouraging others to stand alongside us, but in ensuring that people understood that this is not just a matter of a war in Eastern Europe that might not matter to people across the global south, but it is a contract that does matter around the world. Yes, because of food prices, because of energy prices, because of the geopolitical instability that Russia is creating with its illegal invasion, but also because the matter of sovereignty, of territorial integrity, of the rule of law must and does matter to all countries around the world. So Canada has been incredibly active alongside Ukraine in all the moments where Vladimir has appeared at various summits to stand up for Ukraine and stand up for the rule of law, but also in summits like the most recent G20 where Vladimir wasn't able to be joining us. Canada spoke clearly and strongly and worked to convene partners. We will do this because we are a country that always stands up against the rule of law. And as Volodymyr said, the propaganda, the misinformation, the disinformation that Russia is aggressively spreading throughout our democracies is something that we have to counter with facts, with values, and with the kind of strength and solidarity that will see us through these difficult times. Canada
has always been there for Ukraine. At the bilateral level, we're there with military assistance, humanitarian assistance, financial assistance, but we are also there on the world stage, standing up unequivocally for Ukraine's sovereignty, but also the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity that are essential to the proper functioning of all of our countries. We have and we will continue to be there to underline how much this conflict impacts us all. We must all stand by the UN Charter, law and order, and stability and prosperity that the world has known for 75 years, that has been broken by Russia and its illegal actions. Canada will continue to be there for Ukraine and for the rule of law.
Thank you. Next question, Maxim.
Okay, Prime Minister, Mr. President, thank you for taking the questions. So I also have a question for both of you. So for the Prime Minister, are you concerned that the recent published report by the American Department of the Treasury ranks Canada 8th in the world regarding the number of suspected Russian sanctions evasions by local companies? How can the sanctions regime be strengthened in order to deter this type of activity? And for the President, нещодавно від деяких західних партнерів
recently, some of the Western partners mentioned the need for running elections in Ukraine in accordance to the terms, and the constitution prohibits the elections during the martial law period. Do you have any pressure from Canada on the need to have elections next year, and whether the Canada is ready to support that?
Countries that has stepped up the quickest and the most comprehensively on sanctioning those responsible for this illegal war, Putin and all his cronies and the people who've profited from it, whether they be in Russia or Belarus or elsewhere. We will continue. We've sanctioned about 2,700 people and entities, and we will continue to. We are constantly working to strengthen, to coordinate with our allies to make sure that these sanctions have the right impact on the people responsible for this war, while ensuring that they are not harming people in the global south who are facing food insecurity or energy insecurity. That is the role that Canada continues to play, to highlight that Russia is responsible alone for the food and energy crisis that so many people around the world are facing right now. Le Canada est parmi
Canada is one of the strongest countries in terms of sanctions against the Russians and others who are involved, who are profiting from this illegal war. We will, of course, continue to work with our allies, with our partners, to ensure that these sanctions hit as hard as possible, while ensuring that we are not hurting the most vulnerable around the world who are suffering because of this war by Russia, especially in terms of the price of food and energy.
Thank you for the question. First, Canada is not pressing, and we have a warm relationship, really. You should not press. You can raise the issue, but not press.
По-друге,
Secondly, the team of the Prime Minister, we haven't raised the issue of elections because it's not topical issue considering the security aspects. You were right to mention that the law prohibits the elections at the time of the martial law period, but I'm ready. But the security is a very complicated aspect of running the elections. The first complexity is to have the elections in a democratic and transparent manner. For that, we need independent observers from different countries of the world. How it's usually done in Ukraine in a democratic and transparent manner, just as it was during the previous elections. Now, the second question, how to give a chance to vote for the people located on the temporarily occupied territories. I'm not talking about the territories occupied in 2014. I'm talking about those territories that were occupied after the 24th of February. Now, this is a complicated matter. We need to think of that. Then third, a lot of Ukrainians, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of Ukrainians are abroad. And how to organize the voting process for them. It's a difficult matter from the standpoint of infrastructure. And at this point, there is no answer to that. As for the funding, we are currently saying that in Ukraine, which is absolutely fair, the society is responding harsh whenever the parliament or the government is willing to, to allocate money to a certain direction, which is different from weapons. I mean, the society is not ready to support that. And the society is, in fact, is absolutely against that because we are at war. And everyone thinks, what sort of elections are you kind of thinking about? But this topic is raised, so we need to get ready, to be ready for this topic. And the last, but not the least, I think the largest complication, it's the military, because we have 1 million of soldiers. And, I mean, how they're going to vote while in the trenches, how they will be able to visit the polling stations close to the front line. So everything should be organized in the bomb shelters, We know Russia, because they will simply open fire at all the people who would be coming to the elections. And, I mean, will you be able to find the observers ready to go to the trenches and to make sure there is a transparent elections? Unfortunately, we don't have an online voting in Ukraine. Now, speaking on military, you have to understand this is the largest kind of unfairness, because the people who are protecting the rights and liberties of the citizens won't have a chance to vote. I mean, that's nonsense. Therefore, we have to think about this. We have to work on that. If everything will succeed, then we can do the elections.
Thingy, because I'm going to ask the question in French. So, all good? Skills in the Parliament, but it's going to be a bit more complex in here.
Mr. Trudeau, Canada has announced 650 additional $1 million. That's $9 billion since the beginning of the war. We've seen resistance at Congress in the U.S. yesterday. Do you feel that there's a little bit of fatigue setting in, that it's become more difficult to convince people to continue to stand by Ukraine? And Mr. Zelensky, could I hear you on that as well? And while I'm at it, Mr. Trudeau, on India, you asked India to collaborate in the investigation. They said they haven't received anything yet. When will you provide the evidence to them? Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you. First, we all understand that this is an economically difficult time. Canadians, I'll start over. We all know that we are experiencing economically difficult times around the world. Crises have multiplied. Following the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and Russia's illegal invasion, which has destabilized prices, the impact of climate change, we are facing very difficult times. That is why Canada, like other countries, is there to help our people, to help people get through these difficult times. But we understand that global challenges have global solutions. So that is why we are part of a group standing firm against Russia to defend Ukraine. We know that the destabilization of the global order that would happen if Russia succeeded in overthrowing the rules-based order would have a profound economic impact for people. That is why we are doing both things at the same time. We are there for Ukraine because it is the right thing to do for Ukrainians, but also because it is the right thing to do for Canadians. And we are there for Canadians at the same time. I understand that in all countries around the world, there are more and more complex budgetary situations. That is why we are looking at ways to directly help Ukraine with money from Russia. The Central Bank of Russia has $200 to $300 billion in assets, mainly in Europe and the United States. But today we've announced a working group to look at how we can use that money, put it to work to help Ukrainians who are suffering because of Russia. So we will continue to be innovative, to be present in standing up for Ukraine, and we will also be resolute that it is in the economic interest of Canada and even Canadians to continue to be present with everything it takes for as long as it takes so that Russia is not victorious.
Okay. We know this is a difficult time right now for all Canadians, for people around the world. The impact of climate change and extreme weather events, the hangover from the pandemic, and indeed the direct impact on food prices and energy prices linked to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine means that people are having a hard time. And that's why we're stepping up as a country to support our citizens, but that's also why we recognize that global problems have global solutions. And we will continue to be there to ensure that Russia does not emerge victorious. Because the impact a Russian victory, which isn't just a victory over Ukraine, but would be an overthrowing of the rules-based order that has led to unprecedented prosperity and opportunity for people around the world over 75 years. If Russia were to win, Canadians in their daily lives, in their grocery bills, in the opportunities they have for the future, would be directly impacted. So we will continue to be there with as much as it takes for as long as it takes. But that's also, this financial context is why we are looking very carefully at how we can ensure that Russia itself is paying for the devastation they're causing in Ukraine. We've announced today a working group we'll look to create to see if things like Russian central bank assets, which total $200 or $300 billion in Europe and in the United States primarily, could be set to actually support Ukraine in this fight and indeed help over the long term to restore the prosperity and peace for the people of Ukraine.
Thank you for the question. I believe the Prime Minister has covered all the details for your question. I don't think I will be able to complement his answer, but some of the aspects very briefly. I believe that you're supporting either Ukraine or Russia. There's no mediators in this war. By weakening the support of Ukraine, you're reinforcing Russia. And powerful Russia, and what can you expect of it? I think the history and the historic books and the witnesses has gave all the answers necessary. That's it. If someone wants to take a risk, okay, now weaken the support to Ukrainians. But should I be absolutely frank, in case of freedom, democracy, and human rights, you need to fight for those. That's a fact. And money. Yes, we are grateful to all the countries who have been helping us with weapons, with money, and who continues to do so. But this is not the most important. The most important is that the largest price. This is something that Ukraine is paid, because we are paying with the lives of our people. So we are grateful for your support. Thank you.
I was thinking about Ukraine today, so I missed the part of the question on India. I just want to simply say that we've shared those allegations, those credible allegations, with India for weeks. We are working with our partners, and what we are asking is for India to commit constructively with Canada to establish the facts on this situation. We're there to work with them, and we have been for weeks now.
To India, Canada has shared the credible allegations that I talked about on Monday with India. We did that many weeks ago, and we are there to work constructively with India, and we hope that they engage with us so that we can get to the bottom of this very serious matter. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui conclut la conférence.
Thank you. This concludes
Microphone still muted. Sorry, folks. So that was interesting. There is a whole other side to this, of course, and a whole other story tonight. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Kevin Michalitzi, who is in Crimea, where they experienced rocket attacks from Ukraine. And we have some on-the-ground reporting for you on the other side of this. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Kevin, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for doing this.
Rick, my pleasure. Wish it was under different circumstances, but hey, we live in interesting times.
So you have another attack in your area. Can you tell people, first of all, where this happened?
Well, it was a big attack on the naval base of the Black Sea Fleet. So they had 7 British Storm Shadow missiles fired, and one of them struck the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet. So right in downtown Sevastopol.
And was anyone injured or killed?
There's one guy that was initially reported killed, but now it's being reported that he's simply missing.
Okay, well, that's not a good sign. So that will be something we'll have to keep an eye on. How many missiles did you say were fired?
7 Storm Shadows.
7 Storm Shadows. So do you know much about those particular weapons or how lethal they are?
They're long-range missiles. That's the most I can tell you about them. I'm not as knowledgeable about the missiles as our friend Scott Ritter is. But they were fired from over in the Odessa region.
Okay. And strategically, what do you make of this attack today?
You know, they've already set up a temporary headquarters, so it really isn't going to have a big, impact on the activities in Ukraine. At most, it's going to be a talking point for Ukraine of, look at the success we had against the Russians. And, I think we will find that we have a fairly sleepless night tonight. We had some drone strikes, drone attacks. They shot them down a few nights ago. 19 drones. The West was putting it out there as the largest attack against Crimea yet. It actually wasn't. We had 42 drones on the 24th of August. So that was small. But in response, Russia took out a lot of the energy infrastructure in Ukraine. So I think you'll see something big going on tonight. There's reports from one of the deputies at the Black Sea headquarters, and he's calling for striking the, downtown Kiev.
So the sabers are rattling. People are getting getting fed up with this, I guess.
Yes, and I think the only thing that will save Kiev at this point is the patience of Vladimir Putin.
Well, we've seen plenty of that throughout all of this. He's been taking a very measured approach all the way along.
Yeah, maybe a tad much at this point.
Well, I can tell you that here in the West, and I'll get you to maybe comment on this. I don't know if you're seeing or hearing this perspective, but the mainstream media here seems to be shifting a bit in their coverage. I'm seeing increasing criticism of the war and an acknowledgement that it has not been going as smoothly as we've been led to believe. They're acknowledging that the counteroffensive that was launched really has not been successful, and I think people are finally getting to the point, at least in the mainstream media, that that maybe all this money that has been funneled into this has been poorly spent.
Sure, and I hear that Zelensky went to Washington yesterday to ask for more weapons and money, and Congress promptly refused to let him speak. So I think maybe some of the U.S. government is turning that way.
Yes, and we've seen now also a bit of a problem with Poland. Can you comment on that?
Sure, I think that's saber rattling again. You know, Poland announced that they were going to refuse grain from Ukraine. Ukraine got mad. They, started, calling names in public. So Poland then said, well, come January 1st, we're not going to give any Ukrainians any money, any support to stay in our country anymore. And, in response, Ukraine came along and they said, well, then we want you to send them all back to Ukraine so they can fight, which of course Poland's refusing to do. And, so Poland has now come along and said, well, we're not going to send you any more weapons. Now, let's be clear. A lot of people think that means there will be no weapons going from Poland to Ukraine. There won't be any Polish weapons, but it's still the major entry point for Western weapons, such as these Storm Shadow missiles. They go from Britain through Poland and into Ukraine.
And it just shows a bit of a crack in the alliance, which is a problem for Ukraine.
Yeah, well, Russians and Ukrainians both have kind of a saying about the Polish, and they can't be trusted. So
here's some video that is out there. I guess maybe you can just comment on this and tell people what it is we're looking at here.
As what you're seeing a fire burning in the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet.
Hang on a second here. I guess that's about as long as it ran. Okay, so let me just slow this down. Okay, so it's paused. So what is it we're looking at?
So this is the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet. This is the building that was struck. It was on fire at the time. This was about 12:30 this afternoon when I first got a call from a friend in Sevastopol. Videos of things like this are very, very small because the Crimean government has made it illegal to actually take videos and pictures of air defenses working, strike sites, things like that. This is from MASH, so I'm going to blame them if anyone knocks on my door.
Okay. Well, it's time of war, so we're living in strange times with unusual rules. So
Yes.
There's also this report from this British journalist that you're aware of. His name is Johnny Miller. As I cue this up, can you tell people who this gentleman is?
Yeah, Johnny is actually a British journalist. He's an independent. He's pro-Russian. Often the Ukrainians use his videos to say, gee, look at the, great success we're having. They call him pro-Ukrainian, but he is very pro-Russian. He lives in Sevastopol.
Okay, so let's listen to what he has to say, because he was right on the scene as this was happening. Is that correct?
Yes, this was at about 12:30 today as this was happening. You can hear the missile strikes in the background and the air defense.
Okay, here he is. This is Johnny Miller.
That is the sound, I think, of anti-air. Anti-air right above me there. I'm in the middle of Sevastopol right now. It's a bizarre scene. People are just swimming down there. People with kids just enjoying the beautiful harbor. And above us, the anti-air missiles are exploding in the sky. Sevastopol is currently under attack.
Wow. How did people?
Yep.
I don't know how people cope with that. It's psychologically, it really has to weigh on people just trying to live their lives day to day.
Yeah, and when this happened, they recommended that everybody return to their homes, clear out of the center of Sevastopol, that they expected more attacks. Now, they did not happen. The first attack was actually about 10:30 this morning, and we had, what was it? A big U.S. plane. Let me dig that up here. Chook. So you get to cut this part out. Since I forgot what it was.
Well, no problem.
Yeah, so about 10:20 this morning, a Neptune anti-ship missile was fired from Odessa and shot down by the air force over Belbek. And, we had a few minutes later a AR-3 UAV that was flown from Kherson to Cape Tarkanut, which is that little peninsula that hangs out of the west side of northern Crimea. So this was a pretty big deal. We had some, American military planes, spy planes, flying around Crimea the last couple of days, and while this attack was going on. So we can fully understand who is coordinating these attacks.
Clearly, yeah. We have this other report now from Johnny Miller. This is, I think, a little more detailed information, which he provided after he returned home to his apartment.
Now, I just got back to my apartment. The center of Sevastopol is pretty chaotic right now. We understand that the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet has been hit. Many other missiles clearly shot down by anti-air defense. Now, this is a major development, the center of Sevastopol. The people are on the streets on their phone. I heard one man swear down the phone. They hit the center. There's a lot of anger. There was a car crash as people rubberneck to see what's going on. But this is a major development in this conflict. Much of the harbor at one time was being the loud sounds of the anti-air defense, smoke rising in some places. But we'll have to wait and see what kind of response there will be, or how this changes, or if it does change the nature of this conflict. But certainly the people of Sevastopol are now understanding what it's like to live under bombing.
Yeah, exactly. It's something, I don't know how how people cope with that. I've never had to deal with that. So it's a terrible situation.
It's a constant concern. Even, we're, 25 miles away from there, but, we always have the concern of, what happens. We had a dump truck dropped his box up above our house here the other day, and we literally thought that we had a missile attack behind us. So people their nerves are a little short at the moment.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to this, but you think this will put an increased amount of pressure on Vladimir Putin to take more assertive action?
I don't think there is such a thing as putting pressure on Vladimir Putin. He is calm, patient. His response will be well thought out. If it's not a noisy night of missile launches tonight, it will probably happen in the next couple of days anyway.
Yeah. And what kind of impact do you think this might have on today's visit to Canada by Vladimir Zelensky?
Well, if they agree to see him, I think it will, be a big jumping up and down about the great successes they're having. And this is why they should be funded further and given more weapons, because they can win against Russia.
Yeah.
And
well, I did see him arrive at the airport very early this morning, still when it was dark. I don't know exactly what time the plane got in. Trudeau was right there to greet him, and they did embrace. They gave each other a great big giant hug, and he's supposed to address Parliament at some point today, this afternoon, I believe. So,
well, sounds like he's going to have a little more luck than he had in Washington, D.C.
Yes, well, I think Trudeau is all in, especially, given Chrystia Freeland, our deputy prime minister, and her ties to Ukraine. So that might weigh in on this. That might have some bearing on what's going on here today.
Well, if Canada can afford it and the taxpayers are willing to have their money spent on such things, then
yeah. Well, I think that, as I said, here in the West, the tone of the media coverage seems to be changing somewhat. So it's. I think it is this might mark a sort of a turning point in the conflict, not just because of this attack today and the response we might see as a result, but just overall I think Zelensky's still flying around the world, as like a beggar, asking for money and weapons at every stop. I mean, that's really his job. It's PR and fundraising, essentially, right? And if you don't have the media on your side, he's in trouble. Where do you think this is going? Can you give us any sort of insight or predictions on or analysis in that regard?
Well, I don't like making predictions without solid facts behind it. But if I was a betting man, I'd say that we're going to see some saber rattling in the Black Sea again with NATO exercises. People think this is something that the U.S. just came up with. Realistically, this exercise off the coast of Crimea was planned for this contingency back in 2020. So, I think there will be saber rattling, but I think the U.S. is going to start withholding money, and I think much of Europe is already getting tired of sending their money. They're getting tired of hosting, runaways from Ukraine, and I'd say we're a ways away from things shutting down, but I think it's going to come to a close in the near future.
All right. Kevin, is there anything else you'd like to add this morning or think that I might be missing?
The only thing that I want to put a nail in is our good friends Clayton and Natalie Morris have reported that civilians in Russia and Crimea are being actively trained to fight Ukraine. And I just want to say that is not true. So I think they were misled a little bit where they got their information. So just so people know, no civilians are not taking up arms here. We are not being trained for fighting.
Well, that's, I think, going to be a relief to many people. And I know that here there is not a lot of concern yet about a draft and things like that. But when I hear figures thrown around from people like Colonel McGregor, who has indicated that the Ukrainian forces have suffered somewhere in the vicinity of 400,000 casualties. Their depth in terms of manpower has got to be diminished, and at some point it either has to come to an end or they have to come looking for new soldiers. And of course, I've always been concerned that that might mean they'll come looking for our sons and daughters over here as well, because they seem very willing to fight at least to the last Ukrainian. What happens after that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either, and I hope the Western countries are not willing to go to that point.
Yeah, me too. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us on the program. As always, extremely helpful, and I know that the people here appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, Rick.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, so 2 days ago, Unifor, which represents auto workers in Canada, managed to strike a tentative deal with Ford, avoiding a strike. However, and we don't have the details of what that tentative agreement is yet, but if they have a tentative deal, chances are it will be ratified, and we know that the union was looking for a 36% wage hike. Unlikely they got that much, but we will find out in due course. And in a significant development, on the U.S. side, the United Auto Workers Union has expanded its strike against major car makers. So today they walked out of 38 parts distribution centers operated by General Motors and Stellantis in 20 states. However, Ford so far has been spared from further shutdowns. Do we have video? Yes, we do. Here's video of a walkout at one General Motors facility, just to give you a visual reference and show you what is happening out there in the world of labor. President Joe Biden announced on social media that he plans to visit Michigan Tuesday. So, escalating labor friction. Ford has avoided additional strikes as they have met some of the union's demands during recent negotiations. UAW President Sean Fain noted, in his words, "We've made some real progress at Ford," adding that there are still serious issues to work through. However, at GM and Stellantis, the situation remains different. GM and Stellantis, in case you don't know, Stellantis has a variety of brands from Alfa Romeo and Fiat to Dodge, Chrysler, and many others. But GM and Stellantis have reportedly rejected the union's proposals for cost of living increases, profit sharing, and job security, leading to what Fain called a need for some serious pushing. Both GM and Stellantis have responded, stating they've presented offers covering wages and job security. GM released a statement calling the strike escalation unnecessary and accusing UAW leadership of manipulating the bargaining process for personal agendas. So it's a war of words at this point. Stellantis, on the other hand, claimed they made a competitive offer that would pay employees between $80,000 and $96,000 within 4 years and 7 months, with no response from the UAW. The UAW's latest move has targeted parts distribution centers that supply car dealer service departments. This could potentially affect consumers if dealers run short of parts. The new walkouts will impact an additional 5,600 workers, on top of the nearly 13,000 who began strikes last week at Ford, GM, and Stellantis assembly plants. And while the UAW has refrained from targeting plants producing best sellers like the Ford F-150 and Stellantis' Ram pickups, the strike is already impacting production and causing economic losses estimated at over $1.6 billion. Analysts suggest that it may take a few weeks before the strike significantly affects car lots around the country, but prices could rise sooner if the strike continues. The union is demanding wage increases of about 36% over 4 years. Again, that's the same figure that we were presented with here in Canada. 36% over 4 years demanded by the UAW, pointing to the car makers' recent profits and high CEO pay. The companies argue they need to invest in the transition to electric vehicles and cannot afford these demands. As the strike escalates, it remains a contentious battle between the UAW and automakers. And we will continue to follow this story in the days ahead. Stay with me. I will be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, and somebody in the comments earlier, I took note. I don't know exactly why. I guess it's because we are talking about conflict. Somebody said in the chat, play the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. So I'm thinking, why not? Why not play the Rock'em Sock'em Robots? So let's do that. We'll just get a little light here for a moment before we move on to more serious news. If you don't know what Rock'em Sock'em Robots were or are, you're about to find out. I think most of you probably remember commercials like this one. Here we go.
I can be any kid on the block. Oh, yeah? Yeah.
They're slugging it out. A left to the jaw, and...
Oh, my block is knocked off.
But you can press it right back on. It's Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Press this lever. He throws a right, the other a left. Knock his block off. You're the winner.
Wait till next time.
You can Rock'em Sock'em with the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. By Marks.
I remember those days. Knock his block off. Well, looks like a lot of people want to knock somebody's block off. I didn't even really want to cover any of this today, but I guess we'll run just a little bit of it. This is the, what are they calling it? The Education Over Indoctrination protest in Toronto. So there was pushing and shoving and colorful activity all over the place. That is for sure. So there were some arrests made. This is in Toronto. And here we have an Antifa group carrying a sign that I noticed was also on display during the exact same banner during the Million March for Children. This was one of the counter protests. And of course, now we know that a lot of those were organized by unions. And now today they were out in full force. And boy, you know, it seems like there maybe is some sort of a link even between the unions and Antifa on one side. And then on the other side, you have, well, freedom groups and churches and Muslims and I don't know what all different groups. But here we go. This is what it looked like on the streets today. This one from Daisy Media. And this is edited video. So I just want to let you know that this is not entirely raw. This picks up and leaves off a particular place. So this is just a clip. Just a clip. So I just want to give it that context. Here we go.
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
First go home!
Trans rights are human rights!
First go home!
First go home!
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
Keep it peaceful, guys. We can disagree civilly.
Go home, fascists!
Keep it peaceful, gentlemen.
Go home, fascists!
Keep it peaceful.
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
We're all good for now. No fascists.
These streets are our streets!
These streets are our streets!
These streets are our streets!
Can someone lose this for me, please?
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Hey!
These streets are our streets!
Dude, we are surrounded.
These streets are our streets!
Go home, fascists!
Hey, thank you. You're not surrounded, leave! Fascists!
Wow, man. Fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Get low, get low.
Trans rights are human rights! Trans rights are human rights!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
Josh, where are those police?
Trans rights are human rights!
Josh, where are those police?
Go home, fascists! Fascists! Go home, fascists!
These streets are our streets!
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 These
streets are our streets! Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
These streets are our streets!
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 Trans rights are human rights!
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 Go home, fascists! Can you help me?
Trans rights are human rights!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
These streets are our streets!
These streets are our streets!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
These streets are our streets!
These streets are our streets!
Go home, fascists!
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 These streets are our streets!
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 Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
Go home, fascists!
These streets are our streets!
Break it up! Break it up! Break it up! Keep it peaceful! Human rights!
We can use some public order over here. Where are the police? There's 100 auto police on standby. We can get We need public order, man. Hard. Where are you guys setting up? We were here. They surrounded us and took us over. We need people on this side now. They just committed those tenants. Honestly, we can use your help over here. Multiple assaults already.
Well. That's Canada. September 22nd, 2023. I just have to check the date down there. Yeah. At least that was Canada there today. Do you think that's an accurate reflection of our society today? Man, I don't know. What a week. It's not over yet. I don't want to dig too much into the Save the Children convoy tonight. I will tell you that it's rolling. We're hearing that some peoples, a lot of vehicles are on the road. I don't know how many from some locations, and others leaving next Monday is the word that is out there. Destination, not entirely known. Much of it still wrapped up in secrecy. Obviously, they don't want the politicians and the authorities to know exactly what they're up to. Because they have, they're afraid, of course, that they're going to be stopped. So they have plans, I guess. And we'll see where that all goes, too. And all this turmoil in the streets, and because of that, today, People's Party of Canada was front and center with this today. Very active in these protests. Seems they're right at the center of it all, interestingly. And Maxime Bernier, People's Party of Canada, sending out a message today, saying today at the Education Over Indoctrination protest in Toronto, Nick Alexander of Save Canada was arrested after being assaulted by an Antifa thug. Bleeding from a head wound, Nick was cuffed, denied medical assistance, and thrown in a paddy wagon. Nick is expected to spend the night in prison. His assailant goes free, it says. It says here, according to Maxime Bernier, our justice system fails us every day. The government have consistently turned a blind eye to Antifa violence from coast to coast. In Canada today, as long as violence is in line with the establishment narrative, it is not a crime. Radical leftist thugs, it says here, are emboldened. Violence will only escalate as the police do nothing. It is time for action, he says. So, People's Party of Canada tonight demanding the federal government immediately label Antifa a terrorist organization and dispense justice for Nick, it says here, and countless others who have been assaulted by Antifa criminals. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Seems in this political environment, political movements actually win by losing. So if you get thrown in jail, you actually gain traction politically. I've noticed that over the years. Interesting, isn't it? How that works. You know, when I was, for a long time, I worked for a few news directors who had this philosophy about covering protests. They generally wouldn't assign people to go out and cover protests. The reason being, the main objective behind a protest is to get media attention, so that you get free advertising, essentially, for your political message. So when you have a protest, it can be news. Certainly the Million March for Children was definitely news because of the size of it, which I think took just about everyone by surprise. I don't think anyone expected anything on that scale. But overall, protests, you know, if it's a unique thing, if it's happening once in a while, it's unusual. Because it's unusual, that makes it news. Or if it's really big, that can make it news. Was today's thing news? I suppose to a degree it's news. But largely these things have become almost a matter of routine. We've had so many of these protests over the past year. The messaging's always the same. The only thing that I've noticed today is that there was a definite increase in the violence. An absolute definite increase in the violence. I don't like it, but that's what happened. I don't know how we get people back to talking to each other instead of screaming at each other and now beating each other in the streets. So here's that mass email message that went out from the People's Party of Canada today, scoring political points with this incident, protest, whatever you want to call it. Oh, and there's that shot. That's the money shot. Just saying. It's the way it works. Am I cynical? Damn right. You think I don't know how it works? I know how it works. Both sides looking for attention, both sides looking for something. It's a PR game, guys. Public relations, marketing, advertising, political theater. You ever watch wrestling? You know, one of the oldest tricks in the book, and I don't mean to diminish the seriousness of this matter, because this is real violence, like it is. But, you know, it's also politics. And with politics, you get posturing. With politics, you get choreography. This is a planned event. And, you know, it's unfortunate that we did have violence there, but, oh my, I know how it works. And you know what I also know? We're going to be seeing more of this. You can count on it. How much of it will I be covering? What I need to. But after a while, it starts to become repetitive, predictable. So, hang on a second. Let's take a break here. I'm going to take this phone call. I don't know who it is. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Yep. No, that wasn't anything pressing on the news front, but we've got a lot of calls coming in these days with news developments, that's for sure. But yeah, that is how it works. That's how politics works on the street, and it does work. Yeah, it does work. It generates a public response. So most people don't know how it works. They think that's all organic and just happens naturally. Yes and no. Anyway, yeah. So we didn't always. The better newsrooms I worked in over the years, we didn't cover a lot of protests. Some protests, but just because somebody picks up a sign, scribbles a message on it, a Bristol board, and marches around, we didn't just run out and cover it. And when things became repetitive, we didn't always just run out and cover it. But depending on what it was, we always have to assess. This week, kind of an unusual week. Everything's been escalating, and I think that's largely the objective, and the week is ending here now, but this is going to carry over into next week, as you know. And mainstream media pushing back with, the other side of the story, their side or their narrative. And you're going to see more of this kind of stuff from the mainstream media too. And then you'll have to assess for yourself what you think is accurate and true. But here's a city news piece from today. It says regional police are investigating after a pride flag was burned and trampled, and rocks were thrown at 2 LGBTQ plus students at a Kitchener high school. The incident is alleged to have happened Thursday, a day after widespread rallies calling for the elimination of 2 LGBTQ plus curriculum in Canadian schools. We've seen this kind of reporting many times, focusing on this. And you can make your own assessment on both sides, because they both want attention and they're both trying to get a message out. What's real, what's fake, what's staged, what's not, what's organic, what's fabricated. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so that's why I pointed out, that video, that's a clip. That's not a whole thing. And you're not seeing all the angles because the phone drops. So who knows exactly who's doing what to whom and why all the, there were a number of arrests made there today, but, on the one side, it's like, oh, this guy got arrested and it was for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Maybe not. If you don't have video evidence, you don't know. Like people might make a statement like that. We don't know. But I'll always try to be accurate, and I'm just pointing out that this is politics. So it's sort of like, to me, some of it is like wrestling, but the stakes are much higher. So it's a game. But it's a very serious game, and people do get hurt. And that's, I guess, also why some people are, following and concerned about this Save the Children convoy that's also rolling right now across the country. It isn't clear how that's all kind of shaping up, but they are on the move, and we're following that as well. Not going to focus on it here too much tonight, though, because we've already given that a fair amount of attention. So if or when something significant happens with that, we will keep you apprised, because there's lots more to come on that front, I'm sure. So, yeah. The other thing, I've noticed that, the activist journalism or the activist journalists are kicking into high gear too with all of this stuff this week. Old school journalism, not really out there anymore. It's biased one way or the other. Almost all these journalists are on one side or another. They absolutely are. There's very little balanced reporting anymore. I'm trying to bring you that here tonight. But trying to show you sort of both sides, give you some perspective, helping you understand the dynamics behind what's going on in the streets, so that you can get, again, closer to the truth. Because if people don't have the right information with the right context, things look a particular way. But if you have a little more information, sometimes you look at it from over here and you say, oh yeah, now I understand why it's happening like that. Now I get it now. There's something else going on over there. There's another motive behind this. They're doing it for a different reason. So just throw that out there. Yeah, I guess that's about it on that front. I do want to draw your attention to this too, though, and this has really piqued my interest, but we have a police officer who has been killed, an RCMP officer, in Coquitlam, BC, British Columbia, tonight. Not a lot of details yet, but we know that that officer, the one RCMP officer, has died. And let me check this, because I initially heard that there was one other officer injured. It could be more now, though. And I know that what they were doing was they were executing a search warrant of some kind. And things got violent. And there was gun play. Let me just see if I can get an update on this, just to make sure that the numbers are, 2 seriously injured. But I think that means, okay, so the suspect was also shot and sustained serious injuries. This from RCMP, who said in a statement, the attending officers became engaged in an altercation with a man, which resulted in multiple officers being injured and the man being shot. That from RCMP spokesperson Staff Sergeant Chris Clark. So he says in the statement, emergency health services transported all injured to hospital, but one of the officers was shot and succumbed to their injuries. So the RCMP says the integrated homicide investigation team has been deployed and will investigate the officer's death and the injuries to the other officers. The Independent Investigations Office, which is the civilian agency that looks into these kinds of incidents that involve police, when they involve death or serious injury to a citizen, has been called to investigate this incident. The neighboring city of Pitt Meadows has confirmed as well that an officer from the Ridge Meadows Detachment, which serves the cities of Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, has been killed in the line of duty. So that gives you an indication of where the officer was stationed. Authorities say, well, they're not really saying very much about what unfolded on Glen Drive in Coquitlam this morning. British Columbia Premier David Eby was making an address to the Union of BC Municipalities Convention, and as he was giving that address, as he began his speech to reporters, after the speech, he acknowledged that there had been a critical incident, as he put it, in Coquitlam. But he says that there is no apparent ongoing danger to the public. And now I guess the investigation will have to proceed, and we'll see where that takes us. No other real information about this incident have come out yet. So we shall see. Okay, stay with me. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, that gets us almost to 8 p.m., so what I'm going to do is we will go to the phones for a short time this evening. Let's get things cranked up here, shall we? Let me put the number up on the screen so you know how to call in. Here we go.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow, maybe too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're ready to start taking calls. You can call in and join the conversation tonight at 1-833-975-3733. 1-833-975-3733. If you'd like to call in. Let me just go back here. Again, if you would like to support the show, you can do that at maverickdonations.com. Where'd you go? There we go. Maverickdonations.com. You can also support us over at freedomreporters.com. And more news coming in here from a source. I'll check that out. So, yeah, just more updates on the Convoy thing. Save the Children Convoy. It's just public stuff. It's just out there. Nothing earth-shattering. But I will keep tabs on it. freedomreporters.com if you want to support the show. And if there's anything major, I will update you on that. But we want to go to the phones here. Let's go to our first call of the night, shall we? And here we go. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, what are the odds? I haven't even been able to tune in for over a week because I had a friend thing from Germany, and today's my first day being able to tune in. And, wow. Where to begin? It's been a while. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. I don't know what to touch on first here, but, I mean, just the amount of lying going on, and it seems like Trudeau seems to think the more, you know, if he repeats it enough times, it's going to turn into truth. Oh, I'm so sick of hearing it. You know, the government hijacking a very small group and basically bastardizing it and turning it into a hate group and causing more division. I did, after my friend left for Germany, I did go to this march where I'm located. And I'm still in shock. I'm glad to hear from Amnesty that it went better everywhere else. But where I am, the turnout for our side was very, very poor. And the ones that did turn up were, when I arrived, it was just after 9 o'clock, and it was like walking into a hornet's nest.
And what city are you in?
I don't really want to tell people that, but I'm a few hours away from Vancouver. And it was kind of overwhelming, the amount of what was going on. And it turned out one of the people in the group that I was with pointed out a lady who turned out to be the wife of one of the women that are on the school board that was handing out more of the flags to the group.
Which flags? Pride flags?
Yes. The ones with the big ugly V and all that. Yep. It just kind of, yeah, it's mind-boggling. But anyway, yeah, I'm in shock from what I had to witness and walk into. But I'm glad to hear that everywhere else the turnout was much better and probably more successful.
Not everywhere. I know in Victoria they had big problems. I guess at some point they actually shut it down because they were worried about people's safety. So there were problems there. I don't remember which city, but it was out in the Maritimes also. The pro LGBTQS plus Pride Antifa group came out in much greater numbers than the people on the other side. So there were a few locations.
Oh gosh,
like
I
that.
mean, we had Antifa, we had obvious paid yellers instigating. What really was disturbing to me was the BCGEU. Yellow and black flags were waving. To me, in my mind, that should be even illegal for them.
What is that?
BCGEU.
Is that a union?
Yeah.
Okay. BCG.
They had their flags waving. Yeah, they're yellow and black flags. And somebody in the group said it's actually even illegal for them to even participate in something like this.
British Columbia General Employees Union. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they're unions for all over Canada, right?
Yeah.
They're not supposed to even be participating in something like this, but they were there in a huge mass, Rick. I mean, what happened here where I am shook me to the core, actually. I'm still kind of like, wow, gobsmacked. Anyway, and the whole, Trudeau going on and on about, like, the truth, like, he really thinks that Canadians are that daft at this point. I mean, on about Russia being the instigator and stuff, when the truth is just so in our faces. Like, anyone who doesn't know the truth at this point. I mean, and how much was that? $65 million or $650 million?
$635 million.
Oh, and I've only been living where I'm at for about a year and a half. In that much time, the amount of homelessness and businesses that have closed down is utterly staggering.
Yeah.
And we've got all this immigration coming in left, right, and center, just like the States, right?
Mm-hmm.
People can't afford, like my friend from Germany, oh, bless her heart. After a week, she almost couldn't wait to leave because she called it the Banana Republic shithole. That's a quote. It's so evident to anybody else, like especially for somebody from Germany, the amount of brainwashing and like the whole thing, everything that's unfolding in Canada. Her ancestors all lived in Germany, and she's in shock that people can't see what it's like here, like people who live here. Like it hurt my heart, because like when I visited her in Germany, people in Germany treated me like I was a hero. You're Canadian? Oh my God, yeah. Now they're honestly like worried about us over there. Like other countries are worried about Canada. That makes me cry.
Yeah.
See this, and see it through her eyes too that really hurt this Canadian's heart in a deep way. Because we used to be celebrated across the globe.
And what is
We're not anymore.
Yeah.
We're just not anymore. To see all of this happening in Canada, the media blackouts and everything, and not like, how come there isn't more upheaval about that alone? There just isn't. There should be more outcry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Canadians are just...
You mean censorship?
Like, yeah, the censorship that's happened here. Something for her, she was trying to secure her ticket to print it when she was leaving. This is a task that's super easy for her to do from home in Germany, right?
Yeah.
From here, after 4 hours of utter frustration, because she was using my computer and she wasn't on a recognized device for her, she couldn't manage to do it. So I finally suggested to her, use your phone, try using your phone because it's a recognized device and see if that makes a difference. Eventually it did make a difference, but she had to input all her information all over again manually. And she was just like, I can't believe this. Like anywhere else, this is something super easy to do. It was just unbelievable. Like this, the amount that we are blocked and censored is staggering, and there's just, where's the outcry? Really. And if it wasn't for stations like you and Shadow, and there's other ones that are actually out there, you know, in their own way with their own angles and whatever, somehow managing to get truth out, right? Without getting shut down completely. Still, thank God, let's knock on wood and all that good stuff. I mean, what, you know, like, honestly, we are kind of locked in, right?
Yeah.
It's like an electronic veil we are locked into. And yet, out there in general public, no one seems to even be aware or even actually care. That boggles my mind. The only ones that do are really the freedom, what are called freedom people. I read a sign at this rally calling the Freedom Rally people, what was it called? Called them criminals. So their side are calling, you know, the freedom people all criminals and whatnot. I mean, everything's just so twisted and dark. Like, it's just, wow. But, you know,
why do you think why do you think those people on that side view the freedom people like that?
Government. The government has caused such hate and division. It's just mind-boggling. You know, this is what they want. The government has managed to make this small percentage. And I see the gays against groomers online all the time fighting the battle, saying this is wrong, leave the kids alone, blah, blah, blah. Like, that their group has been hijacked, right? Like, in a big way. And they don't want none of this going on. And yet somehow this tentacle has grown out of the what was, you know, the normal, what you'd call normal gay lesbian groups, right? Like, and there's always been trans groups, but everyone was just going on in their lives, and we didn't care what they did or whatever, and we all lived our lives as it should be. And now it's like everybody's getting grouped into all these little pockets and somehow starting to fight up against each other and hate each other. You think this isn't orchestrated? Of course it is. It has to be.
Yeah, so
it's horrific.
So you see the government sort of manipulating the entire situation to make people that they want people fighting the people.
Yes, exactly. I mean, let's look back to the speech from Klaus Schwab. He clearly stated, in the future, you will see a much angrier world. Hello? That's what's happening. It's unfolding. Yeah. I mean, you know, everybody that's been put into place, we infiltrate the government. Well, they did that, right? Mm-hmm. So everything's being manipulated in such a way. And then I'm watching BC farmers on videos. Trudeau sent his minions out there to shut their water off.
I saw that, yeah. I saw that documentary.
Like, hell. Like, oh my good God!
Actually, I think that was a provincial thing. I think.
It was in BC.
Yeah, I don't think it was the federal government. It could be wrong. I can't remember. I think it was the BC government.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Connie saw that when she was here, my friend from Germany, and she just about cried. Mm-hmm. She's like, I can't believe this is happening here. Like, Canadians need to wake up because everyone else around the world can see what's happening. And why does it seem like, you know, we went out, we went to clubs, we went into shops and whatnot, and she was fully aware, you know. She noticed things that everybody else just seemed to carry on, order their coffee, you know, overhearing conversations that were like, what? Canadians seem to be
I don't remember all the details surrounding that particular issue, but it has something to do with water management, water rights, and a dam that has been built in the area someplace, and and they imposed restrictions on water usage for farmers because water levels were down over the summer or something like that. So they
And the other thing that was really staggering to me in our travels, because she wanted to see as much of nature as possible, because despite everything, we do have vast amount of greenery and beauty, right? Untouched lands all over the place. So I wanted her to experience some of that. So we went from Vancouver to out to Wells Gray. We drove, put on a lot of miles. And what really stood out to me, Rick, was I used to, when I would leave Vancouver and start entering Abbotsford and Chilliwack and all those places, you would start to smell, you knew you were getting close to the farmlands, right? You could smell the livestock in the air. Well, guess what? There was no livestock. I was shocked. I'm like, I kept going, where's the cows?
Yeah.
Well, I saw one little chicken farm and a little farm that had some dairy cows, very few. But otherwise, there were no cows. All the way up to Wells Gray, I kept saying, where's the cows? Where's all the livestock? What happened? Because it's been a long time since I did that trip. So I go to the pet food store, and this seems really random for me to bring this up, Rick, but I tried to buy my cat his favorite food. And I tried to buy, I get the most expensive and the cleanest. And one of his favorite flavors is beef. Well, guess what? They're not making beef anymore. For pets, even.
Who's not making beef?
They continued it.
Who did you say is not making beef?
Yeah, for pets, for my cat, pet food. There's a couple of brands that I would buy of wet food in beef flavor, and they're really a good quality brand. They stopped to make it. Like I said to the girl, can I get beef in any other brand? No, most of the brands aren't making beef anymore. Can you believe that? I was in shock.
I don't know.
Didn't see that one coming. So
don't know anything about.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I didn't either until I tried to buy some. I've always stocked up on it every month, and all of a sudden I can't buy that anymore. No beef. For my cat.
I'm just looking it up. I'm finding beef all natural raw dog food online. I see just beef combo package. Humanely raised, sustainable beef-based dog food.
It's not going to be for all. I don't have a dog, but the brands that I use are Origin and Go. Well, not Go for the wet stuff, but Origin and Maverick.
Dry cat food beef.
Not dry,
Amazon.
the wet.
I don't know. Chicken,
no, the wet.
You can get
anyways,
chicken, you can get, I don't know.
Yeah, he won't eat that. But anyways, yeah, the particular ones that I bought, she said they've stopped, they're not producing them anymore. So that sort of sent me into a tailspin too, after not seeing any cows, where there used to be abundant amount of cows in my travels.
Well, I don't know what to.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I just thought I'd call in and just say, Trudeau doesn't speak for Canadians. It makes me cringe every time he goes, Canadians, no, we don't. No, we don't. He's not speaking for
We've got a bunch
anyway.
of calls stacked up, so I'm just going to move on. I appreciate the call tonight.
Yep.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Well, it's going to take me a bit to sort of plug back into everything, but yeah, I just everyone just be good to each other, be kind. One day at a time.
All right.
That's all we can do.
Appreciate the call.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
It's Julio is up next. Hello, Julio. Hang on a second. There you go. Hello.
Woo-wee, Ricky Walker. Shake and bake. I don't know where to start, and I don't know where to end tonight. You just cut me off. How's that sound?
Well, you just, you're all wound up, so you just let her rip.
Get some beer into me before I let loose.
Okay.
I'll tell you, now we're at, what, $5.6-something billion?
Oh, more than Canadian? It's over 9. It's over 9, so it'll be like
9 billion Canadian.
Yeah, it'd be about 9.6. 9.6.
Well, hopefully when they drove into Toronto for Pearson International, they went downtown by our soup kitchen that's in Toronto. Okay?
Yeah.
It's a mess. When you got Canadians in a food line to eat and you're giving away that kind of money, you know, the protests, unfortunately, I'm going to back away from whatever's going on now because, you know what, I'm more confused now. You know, it was against, I know about Save the Children and all that stuff, right? I get it, and I'm for it. Okay, 100% for it. But now it's getting into different waters, right? It's being hijacked as we see it, okay, by everybody else, right? Now, if people got out to protest on, let's say, the $9 billion to Ukraine, or the cost of living in Canada, the food prices, you know, I bless God, okay? I bless and I thank Him every day, okay? God, believe it or not, some people out there may not believe it, but that I'm on the border, okay? I'm 1 mile from downtown Detroit. And my wife the other day, she said, I'm going to go over to Detroit and buy a dress. We got a wedding to go to tomorrow. One sec.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to call me. Forget them. You can't hear that beeping going on in my phone, can you?
Nope, I can't hear it. Nope.
Okay. So anyways, she went over to Detroit to buy a dress, grab some groceries while you're over there. So she grabs $200 worth of groceries, and it was probably about $700 worth of groceries we'd buy over here.
Wow.
For $200. American. She came home with shit I haven't seen in years, okay? Strawberry shortcake ice cream. Remember them?
Yeah. That's a good humor.
You can't buy that over here.
Yeah.
Right. You can't buy that over here.
Yeah.
Not on the stick. Not on the stick, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. You couldn't, I said, I haven't seen this shit in years.
Amazing.
Okay, and she came home with all kinds of stuff. But, you know, a turkey, 20-pound turkey for $12.
Oh!
You know, Thanksgiving's coming around the corner.
Score!
Right? They just give the turkeys away over there.
Yeah, wow.
Right, so, and they're complaining in the States about the high food prices. Like I just said, for $200 American, it turned out to, I don't know, $280 Canadian. And my wife said, $6.50 to go through the tunnel one way, right? I see, but it cost me $50 and it cost me $50.50 or whatever it was to take the Confederation Bridge back from Prince Edward Island last month, right? So, yeah.
Just
We're
across the
gouged over
border
here,
through
and
the
I could
tunnel,
see-
$6.50.
Yeah.
Wow.
Told her, use a jet ski next time.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Ah.
But while you're over there, you fill up your vehicle, okay? And that's the good thing about living on the border right now. The people in the north, well, I feel sorry for you guys. Anybody north of London, really, right? If you're not on the border, on the Canadian border, somewhere along the line, you're getting screwed, right? So, you know, I'm ready. When in doubt, we can get the fuck out, right? Yeah. As the last caller said, you know, in the eyes, especially in the Netherlands, Canada, we freedom, this and that, and you know, they're worried about us, and they have a right to be worried about us because we're at a boiling point like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Right. These protests are going to pop up for every little thing now, right? But like I said, I would get behind the cost of living protests in a heartbeat. The money going to Ukraine protests in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Right. And I think I mentioned 6 months ago, if you do remember, the LGB community. We're not saying the T or the Q or the WXYZ, okay, just the LGB. This set them back by 20 years because The protests that are going on today, the anti-protests, expect them at your gay pride parades now. They're coming.
Yep. That's right.
Okay, and they're coming. So your gay pride parades have been fucking hijacked by the, what we'll say, the T, the Q, the WXYZ group.
Yeah.
Right, and I feel sorry for the LGB.
Me too, Leo. You know, it saddens me. I hate seeing Canadians fight each other. It's just sad. It's really sad.
Well, my wife finally watched that video of me the other day, and when Buddy got in my face, she said today, she says, "I'm proud of you," because you know what? It could have got. She knows. Okay, she knows. I've been with her for 29 years. I'll break your fucking jaw. You get up in me like that, right?
Yeah.
But if he would have grabbed my phone, I know the laws. That's strong arm robbery. You grab my possessions, you're getting the fucking beat down. Plain and simple. There's no questions. Fucking. The only answer is how many lump-ins are you going to get in your fucking sugar today, or in your coffee, like a Looney Tunes. Okay, and as soon as somebody grabs your possessions like that, right, it's game on. It's robbery. So I know the laws. So I was waiting for him, and I'm a gentleman when it comes to that kind of shit. I've been punched in the face, more times than I could count. I used to like it. It was a sport to me, right? So, the police one time said, "Oh, we need him. They're trying to get me in an interrogation to fucking rat people out." I said, "You guys could play World Cup soccer on my head. You've seen all the trophies and medals in my fucking house. That ain't going to get me to talk, period." Right? It's just the way it is, right? You could torture me, I'm not going to fucking talk. I might like it, right? So,
yeah,
I might.
Well, it was
right?
good
So
of you to warn that guy the other day. I could see the change in his expression as soon as you mentioned that you were the Golden Glove.
Oh, his whole demeanor.
Yeah.
His whole demeanor as we looked, because another guy videotaped it from the side, and his whole demeanor just dropped like a fucking right? People should do their research before they start running their gates, right? And I wasn't doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. But then, hearing social media for you, Rick, the guy's name's Aaron Marcinek, okay? And people have bombarded me already with fucking information, where he lives, his fucking name, the guy's at all the protests, and he's always trying to start shit. And he brings his dog as some sort of protection with him at all the fucking, you know what? I don't care about the dog either. When it goes down, it goes down. Your dog bites me, I'll choke your dog out. Right? So, but first you're getting your lumpins, right? So my wife thought, she was like, she congratulated me on fucking, playing it the right way, right? Because I got heated, right? And I don't like getting heated. Once I get to that boiling point, I don't care if the police are behind me or not, or in front of me, or who's there, I'm just glad he didn't grab my phone and fucking, he did get pretty close, especially in, we're supposed to be in this scamdemic again. He was right in my fucking, he was only inches away from my face, right? Like a tough guy. I'm like, wow. But it is what it is, right? I look at what's going on in the world today. It's a mess. It's a big mess, especially over here in Canada. And the world's watching.
They are.
It's not just Canadians watching, people abroad are watching.
It's true.
Right? So, I hope for peace. I really do. I hope for peace. There's a show I'm watching. I don't know if you're watching or many of your viewers. It's free. If you download an app called Angel Studios, okay, there's a series called Chosen, and it's about God. Okay, Jesus. And I'm right into it now. Really, I am. And every episode's donated by somebody else, by an anonymous donor. So it's free to everybody.
Oh, I see.
And once you get into it, you're going to go, because it's played out pretty good, really, really good. The Passion of Christ don't even hold the candle to it.
Really? I'll have to check
really?
It out. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they've already raked up. If you look it up online, you'll see it. But they've already raked in a crap ton of money, right? And it's all done by people donating for the next person, right? So it's pay it forward.
Very cool.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I like
Very
that.
cool. So I hope for peace and happiness. And, there's guys out there today. A guy said, hey, can you do me a favor? I said, what's that, bro? He goes, can you go to London for me? There's a meal going on there. And I said, what's it about? He said, you know what it's about. It's about destination unknown. Listen, if you can't tell me where I'm going, I'm not going. Right? You want to hold the protests, do whatever you want to do. If it's a convoy with no destination unknown, and tell you I'm going to have to sell one of my houses in order because we're going to be on the road for who knows how long. Give me a break. I'm not going to follow you through the desert blind.
Yeah.
You're not the Messiah. You're far from the Messiah, okay? And it's not going to happen. If you can't tell me the plan, believe me, I'm not following anybody. And I think everybody in this group, don't follow. Be a leader. Don't follow.
I hear what you're saying.
Right. So if you follow people, they're going to. I can guarantee you this, and I've seen it. I've seen people we're seeing it right now. People that are getting into trouble because they're following the wrong cats. And I'm not one of those cats, right? So I don't ever want anybody to follow me. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on YouTube. But don't follow me. Believe me, don't. And as for Anasty, she's the best, buddy. She's the best. She only lives, like I said, spitting distance from my house. I pick up her and her husband the other day. We go down to the protest. Well, she's sending. We got this guy who ran for politics in Windsor, I think, for the Liberal Party, and it didn't work out for him. But he's a Liberal, diehard, right? He posted something about this crap, okay, with the Save the Children, calling us haters, right? Well, I know Greg LeMay, and I know him very well, right? And so I put, just keep it out of the school. Simple. It's that simple.
Yep.
Keep it out of the schools. I don't give a shit what the next person does with their lives. You could buck your arm off. You could take a nosedive off the center of the Ambassador Bridge. I don't care. That's your life. You do what you want with your life. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get in the way. Okay? I'm not. Keep it out of the school. Simple, right? And that's all I said. And then, I'm getting bombarded. And Anasty, I said, you know what? I said, and somebody said, they don't have drag queens in schools. Well, at Walkerville High School last year, there was a drag show. And somebody piped up, said, no, that was in the theater. Well, then Anasty posted the fucking video. Guess where it was? In the gymnasium. Okay? Mm-hmm. And she's the best. She's the best, man. She knows where all the information is, right? And I could follow her, that's for sure. Okay. She knows where all the right information is. And it's pretty funny, Rick. It's so she posted it out, and then today she got blocked off of Facebook from posting it. Like, come on, really? But I called them on their play. You're telling me it was in the theater? No, it was in a fucking gymnasium. And then now they're that wasn't so bad. It's a drag show in the school. Now, if I hired 15 dancers from Leopard's Lounge to come on down, or Cheetah's Lounge to come on down and dance for the grade 12s, okay, I'd like that because I'm straight, but I wouldn't do it.
That's right.
All the straight kids would love that. Yeah. All the grade 12 boys would love that if I brought strippers to the high school, but we don't do that. Why? Because you're not going to sexualize them.
Yeah.
Right? But here you go. You could have a drag queen show where the guy's asshole is sticking out of his shorts and he's running around the gymnasium like a clown, right? And it's, and then you call them on it and they're like, oh, that never happened. Well, then you give them the evidence. It's happened. Okay. Now, what do they say? We're haters. Like, fuck off. Simple. I'm not a hater. There was a lot of gay people that were down there at this protest in Windsor. Okay. And I talked to them. Okay. And they're against what's going on. Like I said, they're against what's going on in the schools. Mm-hmm. And, they feel hijacked, bro. And I feel sorry for them at the end of the day. With that being said, get to your next caller, my friend.
Thank you, Leo. Have a great night. I appreciate it.
You too.
Okay. And here's Pam.
Oh, hello, Rick. Yeah, that was a good show tonight. I'm very happy. I managed to sign up to Rumble yesterday.
Oh, good.
And it was so easy. And so I was actually able to get into the chat line because I don't do Facebook for security purposes.
I see.
But well, no, when I was in the military, everybody told me stay away from it. I have RCMP friends. They said stay away from it. So I don't do it. And if I need to send videos, I'll just email them. But anyways, here's what one of the guys that I met on Wednesday called. And he told me that he said, did you see that sign down on the waterfront? I said, what sign? And he said, well, they've got one with a WEF symbol on it. And so we started talking about local politicians and who he thinks are in it. So I said, that's my gut instinct. I thought that guy was too, because, we know the area and we know what they're pulling out. And then there are also 2 new flags above City Hall on the day of the parade, March. When I think March, I always think parade, military, on the day of the protest. And so there are 2 new flags there. So I've got to identify those and what they are. And he's going to pick me up this weekend, and he's going to show me these signs that are going up. But he told me that they are planning to make Nanaimo a 15-minute city.
And what does he base that on?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know. I'm gonna find out more about it. But I know when I was living up island, they were trying to make us into village nodes to be part of Nanaimo, and we had an independent water board there, and the province was really trying to get control of our water. And I was on the board at that time. And I said, no, these guys. And everybody agreed. So we kind of kept independent. But I don't know where it's going now because I'm no longer in that community. But anyways, so it's just amazing what's happening and how quickly this force is moving. You've got the WEFers, you've got, and even Pierre, or Paul Poilievre came here last. Yeah, and he's talking about housing, but in the paper today, they have him being here, but they're also saying how Nanaimo's going to make it next to impossible for developers to build here because they're saying, well, they have to upgrade the infrastructure of the sewage system.
Well, I've got a story up here from My Coast Now, which is a media outlet, and they say as Nanaimo continues to expand bike lanes and try to make its downtown more accessible to those without cars, some wonder if it will become a 15-minute city. A 15-minute city is described as a place where residents can access all of their essential needs within a 15-minute radius, either by walking or by bike from any point in the city. And, quote, I think that's quite an aspirational thing, says manager of transportation Jamie Rose. He says Nanaimo is a very long lineal city and has some very, very low density areas that are just single family dwellings. He says, I don't think that it's realistic to think that the whole city will become sort of like a 15-minute city. He says, I think there's areas like our urban centers that have the opportunity to become like a 15-minute city and reduce people's reliance on vehicle travel and reduce their travel times to their daily needs.
Right. Yeah, they've been putting bicycle sidewalks in front of my place, and I'm on the outskirts a little bit, not too far out, but like I can make it to a local grocery store in about a 2-mile walk.
Yeah.
But that's really hard on older folks, you know.
Tell me about it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's hard on me too. Walking around.
And plus,
like
we got to go up a big. Yeah, I got to climb up a big hill for me to get home before I can even get home, and I'm usually exhausted just walking the 2 miles, and actually it's 4 miles there and back. And then by when I have to go up my hill, oh my God, it's a nightmare. And so So I guess I got it. I'm getting more into shape all the time. But I mean, we got people here with walkers, and it's just getting crazy. It's absolutely. It's like these people don't want pensioners to exist anymore, and what you showed today with Trudeau and everything. I mean, God, is that guy ever going to go away, or is he going to be there forever? Do you think?
No, he'll go away, and probably sooner than people think. I think his days are numbered now. He's damaged political goods at this point. Listen, Pam, I'm going to move on because I've got an important call here from somebody down in looks somewhere in the U.S. going to talk to us about the UAW strike. So I don't want to lose that call.
Okay, dear. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye. Hello, how are you tonight?
Hey, Rick, how you doing?
I'm okay. What's just tell folks who you are and what you're calling about.
Yeah, my name is Greg, and I'm a UAW member in the United States. And I'm not afraid, so I'm going to go ahead and name out my local. It's GM Local 1853. I'm curious to know, I had a question for you. Have you had any uniform members call into your show?
Not to talk about any of the labor issues surrounding, the current negotiations, no.
Okay, I mean, because with everything that's gone on with COVID and the union's lack of involvement, it's quite concerning to me. And I've seen all the movement in Canada. I've been watching the convoys. I've been watching all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's great to see. And I'm wondering where in the hell the unions are. That's just mind-blowing, because these are the situations where unions rise up and unions get together and unions get the people, the communities involved.
Well, that's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because this week what we saw was this massive protest called Million March for Children. And on the other side, there was a leaked Zoom meeting involving there was 6 pages. So there were about 100 union leaders from across Canada in this meeting, and it was exposed that they were coming on board to do counter protests across the country to the Million March for Children. Yeah. I don't know if you were aware of that. And now
I'm aware of that. I did watch it.
So
I watched the coverage on your show.
Yeah. So
sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking about that, but that's where the unions are in this country today.
Well, it's not everybody. I'll tell you that it's not everybody. And in the United States, we didn't go that far, and we haven't had our unions go out and protest. Now, there might have been some within the BLM movement. I don't know. Yeah. But that wasn't something that's been pushed onto the membership to have the membership go out and do. But if our leadership came to me and asked me to do anything like that, I'd be counter protesting the union at that point.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell I'm going to stand against the freedom fighters. I'd be face to face with those other union members and letting them have it, because they are standing for the complete opposite of what we're standing for. And unfortunately, Rick, the union in the United States, and I'm seeing it in Australia, I'm seeing it in Canada, I'm seeing it worldwide, these unions have completely sold the membership out, and they are some kind of an entity. They're a political movement of some kind. Yeah. We've actually been taken over by these people. And our current president, Sean Fain, love everything the guy is saying, but I don't trust him. I don't trust any of them until they show and they earn our trust back. With all the corruption that we've had within the UAW over the past decades, it's been decades of corruption, and it's a revolving door. And unfortunately, that door is not closed yet. The bad apples are still there, and we need to, as a group, because I know there's people that are like-minded, a lot of people like that you have call into your show and think the opposite and think there's something wrong going on. And I think they're finally starting to see it and finally starting to step up. And I think they're going to start coming after this leadership and start taking them out local by local and start changing things back to more of a workers' rights, the foundation that the unions were set up to be.
That's where they should be. They certainly were not there in Canada for the workers during the pandemic. They absolutely were not. And then as things eased off with the mandates and so on, I saw union leaders, including Unifor, come forward and claim that they were there to represent the workers all along, fighting for, individual choice and religious exemptions. And they were not. Not at all. They didn't do anything to help the workers.
There are certain workers they stand behind, but there are certain workers they definitely do not stand behind. Mm-hmm. And it's the majority of what they have. As long as it fits their narrative, you're good to go. You're golden. They got your back. But if you go against that, myself, I can tell you because I was terminated May 22nd, May of 2022 from General Motors, and the representation that I have had thus far, you can't even call it representation. They will not answer questions. They will not return calls. They hide behind, they will not, I wanted email responses because I want it documented. They will not provide that. I mean, it is, and I'm to the point, and what I think should happen is because of the lack of representation, they refuse to represent me in a Weingarten right violation against management. That's how bad it is now that, these are the things that unions are supposed to strive for and stand for. But going back to all you hear from them now in our civil rights committees and things like that is the equity and inclusion.
Yep.
That's all they talk about.
Yep.
And it's like there's other things. So I'm actually going to a meeting. I'm going to sit in the civil rights meeting and ask some questions and talk to the people there and be like, what are we doing? What do we stand for now? Because I'm just, it saddens me that they're not making noise because there's a lot of noise they can make. And I think it's all due to the leadership. And right now, the strike in the United States, we're having the strike going on. So, I mean, that's a big distraction. A lot of people are just focused on that and concerned with that. But all the time in between, all the last 3-4 years with COVID, dead silence. When you had workers being terminated because they wouldn't get an injection, workers being terminated for all kinds of reasons, which were unjust, and you don't hear a damn thing from the union.
It's true.
It's sad, and I'm somebody advocating to fight back, to bring the workers' rights back. I'm actually trying to form a committee at our local it's a Workers' Right and Constitution Committee that deals strictly with the National Labor Relations Board, workers' rights, and the United States Constitution.
Yep.
And to make sure that which is in our oath of office that we took in our international UAW Constitution, we all swore an oath to uphold not only the Constitution that we have, but the United States Constitution, and we are failing miserably in that.
Yeah. Well, it's I remember the days when the UAW was on both sides of the border. You used to have the United Auto Workers in Canada and the U.S., and then they split. That was in the 80s, I think the 80s, yeah. And Bob White took the union, the Canadian side, and turned it into the CAW. Now today it's Unifor. So, I mean, I think that's had some impact on the way these negotiations go, too, because the industry really is symbiotic between Canada and the U.S. And, I'm not sure how this is going to play out this time around. These negotiations feel so much different. Do you think it's realistic to get the kind of wage increases that they're asking for? I think they're asking for 36%.
Well, you shoot for the moon and you hope for something in between because the company's lowball and we're shooting for the moon, and you meet somewhere in between, usually on the lower end of the in between for the workers. But that's kind of a gimmick. The company does the same thing. They lowball and they say they're gonna take away your health insurance and all this stuff when that's not going to happen. But the workers would never let that happen. But it's just a game that has to be played. And I think our president, I love everything the guy's doing right now. I love the caucus that we currently elected. It's the first time ever that the UAW has elected their representation. It's always been like this caucus, and it's been predetermined. So, I mean, that was always a hard fight there. And now we finally got this. Sean Fain's the first one that's ever been elected by the membership. So that's a big turn. And right now, the guy's got balls. And he ain't afraid to show them. I mean, he's laying it all out on the line and telling people what it is. And, I just hope that we see what we should out of this contract coming up. But it'll be interesting. And, I'll try to get inside information. We got the strike coming up, 1853, maybe going out, one of the next plants to go out. So we don't really know the strategy, but we're going to let that fly. And I'll be glad to call in and update you when I get some more information.
That would be fantastic. I'd really appreciate
and if I
that.
People on board. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. But love the show, love what you guys are doing, love the channel, and you keep up the great work. And I'll try to get my damn union members to do some of the same.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you too.
All right, Rick.
Have
a good night.
Have a great night. Take care. All right.
Bye.
And there we go. Okay, so that gets us almost 8:48 p.m. Check that out. Yeah, we can certainly use your support. Really could use your support. Bills to pay, freedomreporters.com. You can donate there. You can also donate at maverickdonations.com if you are so inclined, if you are able to, and you like what we do. That's where you can go to donate, freedomreporters.com. And if you haven't, please like, share, subscribe if you're watching on Facebook. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing over on our Rumble channels. We have 2 of them running over there. Our main Rumble channel, which, a lot of people are watching on right now. Just look in the chat. Hello, everybody over there in the chat. I often don't get to dip into the chat over there. I should pay more attention. You can actually donate through the chat in Rumble using the Rumble rants. Hello, Mavericks. I'll just type in there. There we are in the chat in Rumble. So please consider subscribing over on Rumble. Doesn't cost you anything to do that, and it certainly helps us out. And we have Maverick News Channel 2 as well. So subscribe to both, and that would help us out a whole lot. Now, that being said, I am going to take this banner down and take this ticker tape down, and I will be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will have the latest news of the day. If there are any major developments on the Save the Children Convoy front, we will keep you up to date on that. If there's anything new out of the Ukraine-Russia conflict, we'll keep you up to date on that. And any other news that comes our way over the next 24 hours will be on full display and open for discussion here on the Maverick News Channel tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everybody. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.